release.
True Opinion Podcast. Hey y'all, welcome to this episode of the True Opinion Podcast. I'm your host, Adontaus, and this is the Harry Potter episode. Listen, if you know me and Harry James Potter been motherfucking clicked up since way back when. I don't play about Harry Potter. Like, I love that shit. That's my shit. Super fan is not even a good term. It's beyond that. Like, I started my collection of my collectibles in my office, and I'm already running out of room because I just want everything. Everything. So it's only right that my two loves, True Opinion and Harry Potter, finally meet up in this episode where I will tell you how, like, I first fell in love. And then, like, I kind of want to, like, go in a little bit of a different direction. This is not going to be a recap of the books or the movies. It's not going to be a debate over which is better, the books or the movies, because, of course, it's the books. Movies are entertaining. Y'all know me with movies. Like, I just want to be entertained. And I have problems with the movies, but this is not that. This is not what it's about. I want to talk about, like, how, as an adult, like, I maintain my love of the series, why I maintain my love, and kind of like how things have changed, my point of view has changed, and how, as a, like, adult mom, married woman, person, super, just like, just like how, like, bad bitches love Harry Potter. How is this incorporated into my life? And so I think a good place to do that, a good way to do that, would be to talk about, like, the relationships in the series between Harry and certain characters, between other certain characters. And then I want to talk about he who must not be named. No, not Voldemort, that sassy bitch. I am talking about the cursed child. We know, like, I think the fandom, like, kind of hates it. And I will admit, when I was very excited to read it, and then when I read it, it's like in play form of, because it was a production that has been acted out on stage. But when I read it, I hated it. I think I read it twice, so my details will not be very sharp, but I remember overall things. And I will say that between my readings and then, like, now, my opinions have changed drastically. And I want to talk about those. So, all right. Shit, let's get into it. So, the very first time I picked up Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, I always loved to read, and I was between books. I had nothing else to read. And my niece had the book in paperback, and it was just, like, laying around her room. Like, I just kept seeing it. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it was pretty. I mean, the first book isn't that thick, but I felt like at the time I picked it up for her age, I thought it was pretty thick. So I'm like, well, okay, let me read it. And I mean, after the first chapter, I was just completely hooked, because I love, like, the whole, like, genre of, like, magic, fantasy, anything with, like, supernatural elements, again, magic elements. I love a good, like, story of somebody who's having it so hard, like, getting just a break. I mean, we can even argue that Harry finding out that he was a wizard was not a break, because his life improved, but then also, like, every year after that, like, somebody was trying to fucking kill him. So, it's a thing. So, yes, that is how I just randomly picked the book up. I started reading, and I was hooked. I don't remember what exact year it was, but I know I was able to read Sorcerers, Chamber, and Prisoner all through. The first three I was able to read. I had to wait for Goblet of Fire and then for each successive book after that. And I just remember it was such a magical time, like not just because it was Harry Potter, but it was just so like cool to be in that world, like everybody like really enjoying something all at the same time, like the fucking midnight releases of a book. It was like rockstar nerd shit. This is like pinnacle rockstar nerd, like, oh my God, it was just amazing. Like you could go outside in a fucking cape, bitch, and nobody cared, because you were going to get your book at midnight. So I loved the time. I loved it. I read every book. I can't even tell you how many times. Truth be told, I am still reading them. Now I have them all on Audible. So I listen to them. I have a set of paperbacks. Every time they come out with a new illustrated hardback version, I cops it. I'm looking at some special editions, like some pop-up like books and stuff to get. It's an obsession that I'm glad to have. So Harry, James Potter, is a little boy. Like I said, I'm not going to be recapping the story. He learns he's a wizard when a very big man shows up at this cottage where he is staying at with his aunt and uncle, because his uncle has run away from all the letters telling Harry that he is a wizard, because his aunt and uncle have done everything in their power to kind of stamp the magic out of him, right? And so this kind of is a good transition into the first relationship I want to talk about, which is the relationship between Harry and his aunt Petunia. So Harry was raised by his aunt and uncle because his parents were killed. They were killed in a magical attack by Voldemort, who was the most evil of evils. He's the antagonist in the series, Voldemort. So when Harry was a baby, his parents were killed. Side note, I just want to say that the movies will have you thinking that Lily and James were middle-aged, or like 30. They look pretty seasoned in the movies, but for real, like in the timeline of the book, they were very young, like early 20s when they had Harry. They were very newly out of school. They were fighting Voldemort. They were very, very, very young, which also makes their deaths even more tragic, So Harry is brought to his aunt and uncle's house to live with them. They are his only living relatives, only ones. And they are Muggle, which is non-magic. Even though Harry's mother was a witch, she came from a Muggle family. So her sister and her parents were non-magic. So this is how Harry ends up living with this Muggle family. Now, Harry's aunt and uncle hate everything having to do with magic, right? And so they hate everything having to do with magic. So Harry doesn't know any of his history. He doesn't know what he has the potential to become. And because collectively they hate magic, they treat Harry terrible. Now, I think that honestly, that is what I thought younger when I read this. In my 20s, no kids at all. I was like, they just, they hate magic. Petunia hated her sister, Lily, her little sister. She was mad that she had been a witch and she married a wizard. She thought that shit was like weird. She didn't want nothing to do with it. Like, ew, gross, stay away from me. You're a freak. That's what she called her sister. A freak for this. And then she went and found the most non-magical, barely human walrus of a man she could find to marry. And so when Harry showed up, they were not happy. And Petunia in particular, I blame a lot for because this was your sister's son. So like I was saying, when I was young and reading it, I thought, she don't like him. She treats him mean because of the beef with her sister. Now as an adult, I was an adult then, but now as an adult with more life experience and having had disagreements, serious disagreements with family and being estranged and like all this shit, like I look at this relationship now and it's still fucked up because you were entrusted. Petunia had all the knowledge. We don't get to see it a whole lot in the series, but she was quite knowledgeable about the wizarding world and the stuff that was going on. And you knew that this boy would be in danger. And not only did she just know this stuff, like Dumbledore explained a lot to her in the letter that he left when he left Harry on her doorstep, which, another sidebar, that was real fucked up, a Dumbledore. Like, bro, present yourself with this baby in your hand. Like, maybe he thought they would like be like, we ain't taking them, but I don't know. Anyways, it was really fucked up because Petunia hated Harry because she was grieving. She was upset. I believe that fucking woman was gutted, but she could never let herself feel that because most people can't deal with their own strong emotions. Think about if you ever had somebody that you're close to and they make you mad or you make them mad, and instead of apologizing when they are in the wrong, when they've done something, they kind of double down on it. They talk bad about you. They treat you bad. They try to make everybody else maybe even think that you are bad. They like hold this one thing over your head or whatever, like you're terrible. And it's because they really can't deal with the fact that they did something horrible to you. They did something wrong to you. So instead of taking responsibility, apologizing, trying to make it right, they just kind of double down on their bullshit. And when you are doing that, what that turns into, what that twists you into is someone who has little capacity for love, caring, understanding, forgiveness, because you have to keep this shell of just misery. You have to keep it up, right? And so I feel like that is what was going on with Aunt Petunia. Because if you can imagine, now, Lily was her younger sister. So Petunia was a few years older than her. Let's say 3 to 4, right? So she's your little sister. When Lily got her letter to Hogwarts, which we learn later, like Petunia also secretly wrote a letter to Dumbledore asking if she could come to the school too, and he politely told her no. Lily had started to become friends with Severus Snape because he lived kind of like on the wrong side of the tracks, quote unquote, but in their area, and he was kind of obsessed with her. Snape always been a creep, okay, even as a kid, creepy kid. So she sees her little sister, who was, by all accounts, beautiful. She is talented. She can literally do magic. People love her. You know what I'm saying? And you're the older sister who, not my words, but the lady who wrote these books described her as horse-faced, and it's just like, now going back, reading and listening to it, it's just kind of like, that lady, like, why you call her horse-faced? Like, she was kind of mean to people at points where she didn't have to be, like, and I think it was just kind of trying to reinforce that, like, she was not pleasant to look upon. And, as a kid, I'm like, this ugly bitch. As a young woman, young adult. I'm like, this is ugly bitch, and she was miserable and she hated her sister or whatever. But I think it was more just trying to draw a comparison between the two of them, because Lily was always described as very beautiful and always described as kind and funny and a great student, and like she really cared about people. And then have Petunia be the complete opposite, where she's described as horse face, she's harsh, she's always snapping at Harry. She treats her own son well, but like over the top. Like she spoils him to no end, to the point where she can't even see, like, you literally turn this boy into like a little pig for real. But that's neither here nor there. So imagine you are maybe in your early 20s. You have a young baby boy of your own. You are a newlywed. You have been estranged from your sister for a long time. We only know that there are the two of them. So these are your like first relationships. Your first best friend usually is like your sister. So you have been without your sister, your best friend, for a very long time. And then you open the door and here is her baby on your doorstep with a letter that says, your sister and her husband are dead. They were blown up. They were murdered by the most evil wizard of our time. Somehow, your nephew Harry made it. And right now, the wizard is gone. But he's going to come back. And your sister, when she died for her son, it's kind of like a spell. Like she enacted this old magic where she died for him. She literally put herself in front of him. So it sealed it. Oh my fucking God. It sealed this like blood magic. So he is protected by her blood. And you, ma'am, are her blood. So as long as he is with you, he is protected. Because this super evil wizard that blew up your sister is going to come back. But as long as he's with you, he's protected. So when he's not at school, he going to be protected by you. And otherwise, I got it. So this is like me paraphrasing the letter that Dumbledore wrote to her. We don't know what the letter specifically said. So you open the door. Your sister's baby is here. A letter telling you your sister is dead. She did a spell. You basically are responsible for keeping her son alive now. And also you have to raise him. And then you look at this boy. All those emotions, all that shit is hitting you. And then you look at this baby. And he got your sister exact ass. Bitch, when I tell you, I would have been good for nothing. Collapsed into a ball of crying, snotting, just I wouldn't have been able to take it, because that's the person I am. Like that, I would have, it just, the gravity, the fucking, my sister is dead, like all of that would have hit me in that moment, and I would have lost my shit. But that did not happen to Petunia. We can speculate. Instead, it's like, now I have a reminder every day. Like everybody said, Harry looked exactly like his father, except for the eyes. He had his mother's eyes. And you would have to look at this child every single day and look into the eyes of your sister that you rejected, you called a freak, you didn't speak to, you know nothing about, and now she is dead. And you, a young wife and mother, have two toddlers to take care of. One looks exactly like the woman who you probably miss more in the world than anybody else. And the way that y'all parted ways, like how you don't talk to her, the way you think about her, you know what I'm saying? Like that's so fucked up. So it's like so much guilt and grief that woman, Petunia, she couldn't handle it. No, most mere mortals, most of us cannot. And that is why we engage in these destructive behaviors to try to deal with the emotions of some shit like that. But she wouldn't have been able to take it. And so she continued to be mean and angry and verbally abusive and listen, physically abusive. Because I remember in one of them books, I don't know exactly which one, but he described how she like threw a frying pan at him or like hit him with it because he had burnt some bacon or some shit for Dudley's fat ass, you know? So it's like he had a horrible childhood with these people. Because like I will say about Vernon Dursley, they don't say much about him, but he just seems like a terrible fucking person. Like he was just the right amount of fucking hateful for Petunia to kind of latch on to, and somebody that would understand and share in her hatred, you know? Like that is important when you are engaging in a campaign of being a terrible person. Like you have to have somebody who understands like, oh, you're a terrible person. And most of the time it's because they're terrible too, you know? Even though maybe it's not all that fair to call her terrible. She was just, I don't know, but I feel like maybe she may not have been responsible for the feelings that she was having as a child. But once you become even an older teenager and an adult, that you never recognize that was jealousy, and that you really loved your sister, and you never became sure enough in yourself to understand that, like, yeah, I don't have magic, but I'm also like a good person. I'm a worthy person. I'm talented in these ways. Like she never had that epiphany. She never turned that corner on that. So she just got stuck in that fucking hate and jealousy and misery. And, you know, in that way, I kind of feel a little sorry for her, because I can imagine the pain that she must have gone through when she heard her sister was dead. And then like looking into this boy's eyes and seeing her sister's eyes look back at her, probably, you know, and to you when you were nuts, well, she's not nuts, but you know what I'm saying? She's probably like, these eyes, like they're accusing, they're angry, they're this, they're that, and not that, or maybe she saw them as Lily's soft, loving eyes. And that was even harder for her to deal with, you know? So she took it out on Harry. She took it out on Harry, and Harry being a kid, you know, he really had nothing for them. He had nothing for them, nothing for Petunia, nothing for Vernon. Like he didn't care. He ain't had shit for them. Of course, because I'm sure, you know, a lot of the backstory between his aunt and his mom, he did not find out until at the almost end of book 7. So he didn't have the experience or that wealth of knowledge to kind of think about or extrapolate why his auntie may have been acting that way, or to try to kind of get through to her another way. But honestly, I think, especially when he was in school, he would not have anyway. He wouldn't have tried to reach out maybe to her in that way, because he was going through a lot. Like I said, every year somebody was like trying to kill this bro. So I think what I take away from that now is that, one, life is too short. It is too short to be hating anybody. Like, even if you are not going to reconcile or whatever, like you gotta get over those feelings. You gotta work those feelings out somehow. But like living your life actively hating someone, it sounds horrible. And I don't want that for y'all. I don't want that for anybody, because you think, oh, it takes no energy. I can just hate in the background. Like it's like a background app just refreshing. But it's like, no, because you see how this woman's hate for her sister, the jealousy that turned to like a hatred, an irrational one too. Like Lily did not choose to be a wizard in a muggle family. It's just something that happened to her. And I'm sure that as she was going through these changes, as she was experiencing these things at Hogwarts, growing up, trying to be a wizard, like think about all the teenage feelings and emotions and shit, and then actually having the power to like hex somebody, to jinx them, to pull really like bad pranks, but she remained like a really like sweet person, so Lily wasn't a bad person. And also, like, I'm sure she could have not used, I'm sure she would have loved to have her sister in her life during that time and for all of her life. Like perhaps maybe when they got out of school, I don't know if she would have maybe disconnected from her sister, or, because listen, Voldemort wasn't no joke, and he was after the Potters. He hated their asses. So there's no doubt that he probably would have sent his Death Eaters after her sister and her husband or whatever. But I feel like, Lily would have, like she did for Harry, she would have protected her to her last breath and gave her life for her sister. So she wasn't a bad person. She seemed like a sweet person, and her sister spent all her life, most of her life and her adulthood, being angry and hating her. And then she took it out on her son, her only blood, her blood, your sister's blood, that you were the only person. It's kind of like I think of it as like, I don't know if when Lily put herself between her son and that killing curse, I don't know if she was purposefully trying to seal some blood magic. I don't know. I feel like as a mom, I feel like she was just like, to get to my baby, you're gonna have to go through me. And then what happened, it happened. I think she was a mom, a woman first before she was a witch. So, but I would think of it, if I was Petunia, as with my sister's last dying act was to protect her son and to basically make me the protector of her son. Like, even though I didn't speak to her, I called her names, I've disavowed all knowledge of her. Her last act on this earth was to make me protector of her son. Like, that is how I would think of it. But also, maybe if she thought of it that way, again, the gravity of not speaking to your sister, hating her, being, out of her life, it probably, if all of that were to come down on her, if she were to take responsibility, if she were to acknowledge what she had done, I'm sure it would have broken her. Because that's fucking horrible to do. So to maintain, she just stayed the way that she was. And also, what would it have done to her family if she were to acknowledge her role and start to talk about her sister and her husband favorably, to try to teach her nephew about the wizarding world and tell him who he was? Her husband would have lost his shit, because while I see, like, perhaps there could have been some opportunity for growth for Petunia, Vernon ass was a lost motherfucking cause. Okay, like, you weren't gonna bring him around. He would have left her, and he would have took that little fat ugly boy with him and went and stayed with his horrible fucking sister Marge. So in a way, maybe she was trying to also protect her family, but again, like, I don't excuse or condone any of her behavior, because, like, you as an adult treating a child this way because of your own hangups and prejudices and whatever the fuck else is just despicable, So, I really wished that Petunia had been able to work that out within herself. And so at the end of the series, well, In the last book, Harry and his aunt and uncle, the Dursleys, they are parting ways for good. Because when Harry turned 17 years old, then when he turned 17 and he becomes of age in the wizarding world, then basically the charm, the spell, the blood bond that protects him is going to be broken, right? And then Voldemort and the Death Eaters would be able to locate him at his aunt and uncle's house. The thing about the magic that his mother sealed, he couldn't be touched. He couldn't be touched, found, nothing, as long as he was with his aunt and uncle. At least, he went back to the house to like seal the bond or whatever once. So he would go back in the summer and, stay for a little bit, and then, he'd be off to, later years, he would go to the Dursleys or whatever. But he always had to return to just kind of like re-up the magic, right? So at the end, where he's going to turn 17 soon, so that's going to be done with that magical protection. So his aunt and uncle and cousin are leaving. They're going to a safe house. The Order of the Phoenix is going to protect them because, they figure that once the Death Eaters can get to his family, they're going to abduct them or maybe just like fucking torture them in their homes and then kill them to try to find out where Harry is, which of course they won't know, but they're gonna torture him anyway because this is what Death Eaters do. This is fun for them, and they hate non-magic people. So basically they would have died, which also I will say I can't discount the fear Petunia must have felt because, like I said, she knew much more about the wizarding world than her stupid husband did. And when she read the letter, I'm sure that Dumbledore left explaining about the blood and how he would be protected and probably, then they would be protected or whatever. I can imagine like, okay. Yes, it is. I know I said all the sweet stuff about, this is your sister's son and her eyes and all that. But also there would have been a real fucking fear like, wait a minute. And you telling me my sister, as she said, went and got herself blown up, right? And now I got to watch her kid and like he got a magical like target on his back. And I'm afraid. I'm afraid for me and my family too because, like I said, the letter told her like, yeah, Voldemort is gone, but he probably like, I'm pretty sure he's going to come back. So you thrust this danger upon her as well. But, I'm sure that was something she had to deal with. But anyway, so coming back to the end, they're getting ready to leave. And it's like Dudley, they're getting ready to leave, right? And so Dudley basically is kind of like, hey, ain't Harry coming? He's like really confused. Like, okay, this is my cousin, but like my cousin bro grew up together or whatever. Like, we're getting ready to leave. What do you mean he's not coming? And so, Harry and Dudley get to kind of have a moment, and Dudley was like, you saved my life, and we never ever saw any tenderness, sweetness. Like, we really saw like Dudley being like a bit of a asshole, like older cousin, I'm sure, feeding off of the energy that like his parents were giving off or whatever. And so at the end, as they were getting ready to part, it was really nice to see that Dudley was like basically kind of like, I mean, that was like kid shit, like, you cool, like, you my cousin, you my bro, you saved my life. Like, I acknowledge that, you saved my life with this weird magic shit that my parents don't fuck with or whatever. Like, you saved me. So Harry and Dudley gets to have a moment, and I really like that. But so then Petunia's ridiculous ass busting, and she's crying, oh, daddy, because she sees her son who, despite her and her husband's best efforts to make him a truly terrible terrible person, he has some empathy, some compassion, at least some acknowledgement that like Harry is family. And through thick or thin, better or worse or whatever, like we've always been together. Like, I mean, if you kind of think about it, kids know and learn like what they see in their house. So Dudley was just he was just being raised there too. And he's like, oh, this is how we treat Harry. This is what we do. But there really was some like genuine like love, concern, some family bond in there between him and Harry, and we get to see that. So Petunia, like I said, but so, oh, my daddy and whatever. And Dudley leaves out, and she's left with Harry in the living room. No furniture, like picture the scene completely like bare, stripped down. Like this is us. This is the moment where, like, if you got anything to say to me, any apology, any, you have your mother's eyes, like anything, any acknowledgement of the years of torment and torture, like any acknowledgement of anything that you put me through, like, here it is. Here it is right here. Like, conceivably, they will not ever see each other again. And this bitch says nothing. And she leaves. That's it. And to me, like, that is one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the books, like in the series for me, because I really like I guess like the part of me that wants things to end well really wants there to be like some sort of moment, like years of reconciliation can't happen in a moment, but some sort of like be careful or stay alive, or even like you have your mother's eyes, like acknowledging like I know I was terrible, I know. But like to me, even if she had said like, you have your mother's eyes, then I would be talking about how she was like saying like, I acknowledge that I look into your eyes and I see my sister, and that is both a comfort and it's a pain for me. And it's very painful. And that's why I treated you this way. Or, just like something. But she didn't do that. She didn't say that. There was nothing. And that is just like, I think this is so weird because I think my voice is kind of cracking. Like, I feel emotional about that. Like, that's just it. That is fucked up, I feel. And I wish they could have had some sort of moment. But I think the lesson in that for us as adults is that we don't have the time. One thing we don't have in this world, on this earth, is time. In an instant, in a second, your life can change. It can be over, And so like what I feel like happened was that Petunia maybe always felt like there was time. Like, yeah, I'm not talking to my little sister now, but we're young or whatever. There's time. It's time to make this right. Even maybe with Harry, like, I can't get over this now. I can't deal with this now. But there's time to try to make stuff right with him. Like maybe when Dudley is out of the house and I don't have to worry about, I don't know, like the influence it could have on him, or, maybe she doesn't want Dudley to know about magic, even though it has touched him personally like twice. Maybe she don't want him to ask questions or know about it. So she don't want to talk about it while he's there. Or I don't know, maybe she would want to wait till he leaves so that, maybe Vernon wouldn't be so upset if she tried to have a relationship with or reconcile with Harry, or even try to explain some things to him. Like, I don't know. I just think that as a wife and mom and a sister, going through like family stuff too. I just think it's complicated. But I wish she had gotten to the point where she could talk to Harry and she could apologize, she could acknowledge, she could take responsibility. I wish they had gotten to that point, but it never happened. So, conceivably, Harry never had any kind of meaningful relationship with the only other person on earth that shares his mother's blood. And that's sad to me. That is sad. But, that's Harry and Petunia's relationship, which I've been talking about for a long fucking time. Because I think, it is, to me, it was much more complicated than what can be portrayed in a children's and like young adult story. Because, you know what? Let's go here. Let's talk about this. Because often I not get into it, but I have a bit of a discussion with Mr. Frazier about Harry Potter, because he always thinks like, man, it should be more dope. It should be this, it should be that. And I was just like, Harry couldn't do this and Harry was that way. Or, he has some criticisms, but I remind him that this is still like a kid, like young adult series. And the story, like it moved, like I say kid, young adult, because of course, after like book 4, we're like, oh, okay, we about to get dark. Book 3 was like the shadows started coming, because you're like, oh wait, it's like lies and real like nefariousness and a lot of other stuff going on. But like book 4, it's like, oh shit, this series kills kids. Cedric Diggory was not an adult. He was 17, which is, I guess, of age in Wizarding World. But, like, oh shit, like people die. They will die. And fucking buckle up for books 5, 6, and 7, because a lot of people gonna die, So I think so all of this that I'm discussing about themes and relationships and stuff, like a lot of this stuff probably couldn't be explained thoroughly in the books, because these are very kind of more adult themes. And once you've had the experience of life and other kinds of relationships, you may understand this or read more into it like I have done, may extrapolate lessons and what you can kind of see. Not lessons, so to speak, like I need a book to teach me something, but it's just other ways to kind of even see how continued grudges, especially based on like jealousy and fucking I just don't like it because I'm mad, or I was taught to not like this thing, so I'm just not going to like it. Like that will, over time, like it will erode your soul. It will twist you and make you into something that you don't recognize yourself. So that's what I get from the Harry and Petunia relationship. I think that's why it can't be so fully explained in the series, because it is a children's young adult type book. But like I said, as you read things with the perspective of adulthood, I think that you can kind of take some other things away from them. So that was my takeaway. So now let's wrap this up with like some that like Harry Potter stuff that everybody likes to like about, because that was pretty heavy. That was pretty heavy. So I took the quiz on when it was Pottermore and like Wizarding World, and of course, I'm a Gryffindor. And I'm gonna be honest, like I always, when I first read the book and stuff, I felt that I was Gryffindor, and then I felt like maybe I'm more Slytherin, because Slytherin is not bad. Like, yeah, dark people come out of Slytherin. I think that's because they were dark to begin with, and Slytherins value like cunning and ambition, and those aren't bad or nefarious traits like a lot of really successful people have those traits. And I felt like, I do have ambition. I do think highly of myself. I know like my strengths, I know my weaknesses. I can kind of figure out how to get things that I want, But also, I guess like shit, like your qualities though just come out because I value like loyalty so high. Like right below like love is like loyalty, because I don't understand how you can get through life not trusting someone and not having someone who is like fully 100% got your back in your corner no matter what. And then I value prolonged and like extended loyalty too. So like, there are people that I used to be friends with, not friends with anymore, mostly because, just life circumstances or whatever. But I just feel like if you've ever told me anything in confidence, if I ever helped you cover up shit, listen, I'm not gonna say that on the air, but listen, if anything ever went down between us where you had my trust, I had your trust, I was keeping some secrets, or I know some shit you did, like, I'm never gonna tell. It doesn't matter where we are now. That's fucking loyalty. I honor the relationship that we had at the time. So Gryffindors are very brave. They are very loyal. Wait, is loyalty a Gryffindor trait? Yeah. Yes. What am I talking about? Yes. Brave. Am I brave? Yes, I am. But I don't like to be scared now. Now, I do not put myself into those situations where I'm going to be afraid. But if we got into some shit and I had to be valiant and courageous, like, I got you, But if you like, hey, can you come go with me too? Like, no, I'm not doing that. Now, I'm not going to purposely put myself. No. No. So, I mean, which brings us to like Harry and his friends. And I love the relationship that he has with Hermione and Ron, because it really kind of showed me like family can also be like the people that you just choose to be in your life. And the relationships with Harry. Yeah, between Harry, Ron, and Hermione, it wasn't perfect. There were bumps and, shit or whatever. And Harry was always basically like, hey, y'all want to come almost die with me? And they was like, well, shit, let's go. So I appreciate that. But also it's like, Harry, bro, you ask a lot of your friends, bro, a lot. But they were always down. So this episode is, it's getting pretty long. I spent a lot of time talking about Harry and Petunia. I guess, like, if you are an experienced True Opinion listener, then you can probably understand where all my opinion and emotion about the relationship between Harry and Petunia comes from. That's why I had a lot to say on it. But yeah, we're running long. So we're going to at least have a part 2 of the Harry Potter episode. And that's exciting. I cannot wait. And we're going to talk about more stuff, drop some little gems. So let's end this with favorites. Okay, so I'm a Gryffindor. My favorite book would have to be, I think it's a tie. My favorite books are book 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, and book 7, The Deathly Hallows. Just because book 7 is like, it's such a fucking epic adventure. It is like all Harry, Ron, and Hermione just trying to figure shit out, like in danger every other page. It's just like such a great ending to the series. 3, I love Prisoner of Azkaban because it unlocks so much of the past about his father, the other marauders. There is betrayal, there's intrigue, there's a reunion. Harry learns the Patronus spell, which is my favorite spell in the Harry Potter series. It's protection, it's light, it is a messenger app. I love Expecto Patronum. it just like signifies hope to me, and like everything is gonna be okay. If you can get that Patronus, if you can produce that Patronus, it's like you'll be okay. It is the light that drives away the darkness. It's just your Patronus, like Harry's Patronus was his father's oh gosh, I'm getting way into stuff again, like story stuff, but his father figured out how to turn himself into a stag. And so that's what Harry's Patronus is. And it's just like cool. I love that story so much. It has time travel in it, and it's done pretty good. Like, it's done right, you know? So those are my favorite books. Prisoner of Azkaban and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. My favorite spell is Expecto Patronum. I am a Gryffindor. My favorite magical object is the Marauder's map, because that is some very impressive magic work to map the entire castle and like grounds and shit of Hogwarts and Hogsmeade, and then somehow be able to track every single person on the grounds. Like, I don't even know how that would be accomplished, but it's like a sentient thing. It kind of thinks, it changes. Like, I love it. It's really just impressive feat of magic. Also, Horcruxes are not my favorite magical object, but I admire the skill, the commitment, and I also fear the fucking darkness that it takes to create a Horcrux. So it's just kind of something like being like, yo, mad respect, but also stay the fuck away from me, you know, kind of like that. So I think that's a good place to end this first Harry Potter episode. Hopefully it'll be like maybe one more, just one more, maybe two. No, just one more. Because like I say, you know, I'm a Harry Potter fan. I love it. I love talking about it. And I would love to hear what you guys think about it. I'm still on Twitter, even though Elon is over there messing with shit. And Instagram, True Opinion Podcast, True Opinion Show. Talk to me. Listen to the episode. Oh, also on you can listen on YouTube, True Opinion Podcast. And yeah, that's it. That's all the promo I need, right? I got all the socials. I told y'all to listen, told you to talk to me, told you I love you. And that's it. All right, muggles. Mischief managed. Talk to y'all next time.